Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Here are your headlines for tonight.
Prepare to take charge of the country's future. President says era of youth being pawns of political parties is over.
අපි මේ පුටුවල চিරාත් කාලයක් වැජවීමේ අරමුණක් අපට නැහැ. ඒ බැටන් එක නුදුරු කාලයේදී ඔබට බාර දීමේ අපේක්ෂාවෙන් තමයි අපි මේ පුටුවල අසුන්ගෙන තිබෙන්නේ.
Where is the ChinaSat satellite? Cabinet spokesperson makes a revelation.
චන්ද්‍රිකා කීපයක් තිබෙනවා. හැබැයි මේ ChinaSat 1 නමින් හෝ ChinaSat 12 නමින් මේ කියන ලංකාවට අයිති කක්ෂ ස්ථානවල කිසිවක් වාර්තා වෙන්නේ නැති බව තමයි ITU එක වාර්තා කරන්නේ.
Court issues warrant for the arrest of former minister Rajitha. CID questions Udayanga and his wife again about the MIG deal. Ittha Kandithera summoned to the CID over obtaining a Mahaveli land on lease and subleasing the land for financial gain. Complaint filed with the CID citing that Gammanpilla's statements have violated the ICCPR Act and the Victim Protection Act. Constitutional Council approves appointment of Priyantha Veerasurya as Inspector General of Police.
On to those stories in detail now. President Kumara Dissanayake, addressing the National Youth Conference today, stressed that with the political transformation in the country, the era of youth becoming pawns of political groups has come to an end.
The National Youth Conference was held this morning at the Sugadadasa Indoor Stadium to mark the International Youth Day.
යෞවන සමාජ සමාජිකයෙක් වන මම මිත්‍රත්වය සහයෝගය හා
The event held under the patronage of President Anura Dissanayake was also attended by religious leaders, MPs, government officials, foreign ambassadors and other dignitaries. Youth organisation representatives from across the island took part in this year's National Youth Conference, which was organised after a hiatus of 32 years.
මේ තරුණ ව්‍යාපාරයෙන් හැම විටම උපයෝගී කරගත්තේ ප්‍රමුඛතාවය ලැබුණේ පැරණි දේශපාලන නායකත්වයන්ගේ දුවාලට පුතාලට.
These youth movements have always prioritized the children or relatives of former political leaders. They were created as tools to protect political power, family influence and keep relatives in power for a long time. However, with recent political transformation in the country, the youth movement is no longer a pawn of political interests. Instead, it has become a force to transform the country and its future into the hands of right people who will take care of it. This is what the Youth Conference and the government have highlighted so far. Today, we hold the presidency, ministerial positions and represent the Parliament. But when we sit in these positions, we do so with the thought of the day we will step down. We do not intend to hold on to these positions forever. We have no desire to cling to power like Multibond. We have taken these roles with the hope of passing on the power and responsibility to you in the near future. We should raise our voices against injustice and stand up for fairness wherever it is lacking. But that voice must not be empty. We must first become just and fair individuals ourselves. Therefore, I urge you to raise your voice for justice and stand up for fairness. Above all, you must become young people with a conscience who truly represent justice and fairness.
යුක්තිය වෙනුවෙන් හඬනගන්න ඔබ සාධාරණත්වය වෙනුවෙන් පෙනී හිටින්න ඊට පෙර ඔබ යුක්තිගරුක සාධාරණත්ව නියෝජනය කරන හෘද සාක්ෂි සහිත තරුණෙක් බවට පත් වෙන්න.
The President also shared his views on government programs aimed at creating jobs for the youth.
අපේ රාජ්‍ය සේවය රැකියා උත්පාදනයකට සමත් වෙන.
We need a government that can build an economy capable of generating jobs. Right now, our government is like a pile of rubble. That's why we are working to modernize it. To achieve this, the Cabinet has approved the recruitment of nearly 62,000 people into the public service. In the past, former politicians hired over 100,000 people, sometimes recruiting 75,000 at once. Many of those hired had no relevant knowledge of assigned duties, and there was no proper service structure. Their skills went to waste. We do not recruit in large numbers like that anymore, but we do need to maintain state operations. There is a certain number of staff required across government departments. We have identified that number as 62,000. We have instructed all government institutions to recruit these 62,000 people as soon as possible. Will this completely solve the employment problem? No, it won't. But what should the government do through good governance? It needs to build an external economy that creates jobs. We have made plans to do exactly that.
රැකියා උත්පාදනය වෙන එළිය ආර්ථිකයක් හදන්න ඕන. අපි ඒකට සැලසුම් කරලා තිබෙනවා.
Following the conference, a musical concert took place featuring performances by several artists.
Newsfirst with the people.
Cabinet spokesperson Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa revealed that according to the International Telecommunication Union, there is currently no satellite in orbit registered under the names SupremeSat 1 or ChinaSat 12 as belonging to Sri Lanka. The minister made this disclosure while addressing controversy surrounding the SupremeSat satellite project. He clarified that despite claims made in the past, Sri Lanka does not hold ownership of any satellite currently in orbit under those names.
ඒ අනුව අපට භූස්ථාපන කක්ෂවල
Sri Lanka has been allocated 2 orbital slots, 121.5 degrees and 50 degrees for satellite operations. However, according to data from the International Telecommunications Union, while these slots are designated for Sri Lanka, other countries such as Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Nepal, Turkmenistan and Romania are also permitted to operate within these positions without interference. Based on ITU records, there is currently no satellite registered under Sri Lanka's name in either of these orbital slots. We further investigated whether a satellite named SupremeSat 1 exists, but found no such listing. It has been reported that the name was later changed to ChinaSat 12. But again, ITU's website does not show any satellite named ChinaSat 12 associated with Sri Lanka's allocated orbital positions. Additionally, we checked for any satellites under the name SupremeSat and found several listed under the 87.5 degrees orbital slot. But these are registered under ChinaSat, not Sri Lanka. According to the ITU, there is no satellite currently in orbit under the names SupremeSat 1 or ChinaSat 12 that is registered to Sri Lanka's designated orbital slots.
නමින් මේ කියන ලංකාවට අයිති කක්ෂ ස්ථානවල කිසිවක් වාර්තා වෙන්නේ නැති බව තමයි ITU එක වාර්තා කරන්නේ.
The controversy surrounding the SupremeSat satellite project resurfaced following a question raised by MP D.V. Chanaka of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, which led to the Board of Investment submitting a response to the Prime Minister. This response was subsequently tabled in Parliament. The renewed debt centres around the satellite reportedly launched on the 27th of November 2012 with alleged involvement of Rohitha Rajapaksa, son of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Multiple claims regarding the satellite have reignited public and political scrutiny. On the 6th of August 2025, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya presented the BOI's response in Parliament, stating that Supreme Global Holdings had invested over 12 million rupees in the satellite launch.
According to BOI records, Sri Lanka received the following financial returns from SupremeSat. From 2015 to 2016, 19,617 million rupees. From 2016 to 2017, 28,133 million rupees. From 2017 to 2018, 29,106 million rupees. From 2018 to 2019, 34,169 million rupees. From 2019 to 2020, 40,960 million rupees. From 2020 to 2021, 62,545 million rupees. From 2021 to 2022, 87,789 million rupees. In the first 6 months of 2023, 39,590 million rupees.
The Prime Minister emphasised that the information provided by the BOI would be submitted to Parliament and that further clarification could be offered if more details are requested regarding the public discourse surrounding the project.
I am responding based on the data provided by the BOI. I believe the public discussion stems from other reasons. If you wish to raise a separate question on that, I'm happy to respond.
Following the tabling of the BOI's report, opposition political parties stated that SupremeSat transaction was a transparent and legitimate investment project. However, they also accused the Prime Minister of acting contrary to the government's policies. At the Cabinet media briefing, Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa addressed the matter and provided further clarification.
The company known as SupremeSat entered into an agreement with the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka on the 23rd of May 2012. The auditing firm for SupremeSat is Ranwatha and Company. According to the audit reports, assets valued at approximately 12 billion rupees related to a satellite were included in the financial statements operations for the years 2013 and 2014. However, in the 2014 to 2015 reports, those satellite-related assets were removed. Furthermore, the audit reports submitted to the BOI do not mention any income generated from the satellite. This is likely because the company provides a range of services beyond satellite operations. Their audit reports for the years 2015, 2016, 2017 and 2018 mention figures such as 19 million rupees and 28 million rupees and 34 million rupees. But none of these figures are explicitly tied to satellite revenue. 4 years later, on the 14th of December 2016, SupremeSat informed the BOI that under this agreement with China Great Wall Industry Corporation, the assets related to SupremeSat 1 had been removed. That's the current situation. What's most interesting is that someone who had previously remained silent should step forward to speak about the satellite. This person likely knows how much profit was made, the value of assets, and where the satellite is located. Anyone with basic common sense can understand that if SupremeSat or any of the China-linked satellites had truly generated significant revenue for the country, and if this had been a profitable national project, the Rajapaksas wouldn't have stayed silent for 13 years. When responding to questions in Parliament, the Prime Minister stated that the information she shared came directly from the BOI. She made that clear while giving her answers. Some are trying to portray this as a crisis within the government, but there is no internal crisis. Those are just daytime fantasies. I've seen claims that a faction has broken away to form a progressive government with Sajid. That's the story.
විමල් රත්නායක මහත්මයා අගමැති ලෙස නම් කිරීමට සූදානමක් තියෙන බවට ප්‍රකාශයක් පැතිරෙනවා යම්කිසි සත්‍යතාවයක් තියෙනවද නැත්නම්
මෙහෙම ඕගොල්ලොම සමාජ මාධ්‍යවල ඔයගලගේ සයිට්
These kinds of stories are being posted on our social media pages and websites, and then you come back and ask me if there's any truth to them. There's no such thing. The government has no intention of changing the Prime Minister. We are working together as a cabinet, collectively focused on rebuilding the country. We operate with mutual understanding across ministries, and there are no issues among us. Now, Sajid and Namal and maybe another 700 people can keep watching and waiting, hoping something will collapse. But there's no point. I'm telling you clearly, there's no internal conflict here for you to exploit. Earlier, people said that there were rifts between the JVP and the NPP. They said that there were internal issues within the JVP, even named Lal Kanta. But all of that was just made up news that lasted a day or two. It didn't go anywhere. They're focused on fixing the economy and transforming the country's political culture. That's what people should be watching. And when they can't handle that progress, they start spreading false stories. We don't see any point in responding to such baseless rumors.
බොරු ප්‍රවෘත්ති වලට අපි කිසිදු ආකාරයක උත්තර දෙක තේරුමුත් නැහැ.
කියන්නේ ප්‍රගතිශීලී කණ්ඩායමක් නැද්ද මතුමා මාලිමාව?
159 ප්‍රගතිශීලී.
Concerns have been raised regarding whether the company involved, Supreme Global Holdings, has paid the due taxes on any profits earned from the project. Additionally, questions have emerged about whether any corrupt or illicit transactions took place behind the awarding of the project.
There are several companies affiliated with the Supreme Global Holdings. If these companies are operating in Sri Lanka's airspace or territory, the people of this country are liable to pay significant taxes. The question is whether these taxes have been paid. We also question whether this project was handed over as a form of bribery, possibly to the son of a prominent political figure. That's why we've submitted this complaint to the Bribery Commission, urging an immediate investigation. We want to know whether the TRC data and legal procedures were followed, whether taxes were paid to the government, and whether this project is riddled with corruption and fraud.
Colombo Additional Magistrate Pasan Amarasena issued an arrest warrant for former Minister Rajitha Senaratne. The warrant was issued in connection with allegations that a sand mining project at the Kirinda Fisheries Harbour was awarded to a Korean company, resulting in a financial loss exceeding 20 million rupees to the government.
The arrest order was issued by the additional magistrate after considering a request made by the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, which had filed a case regarding the matter. Appearing on behalf of the Commission, Assistant Director of Legal Affairs, Sulochana Hettiarachi informed the court that former Fisheries Minister Rajitha Senaratne has been named as the second suspect in the case related to this transaction. Quote,
In this instance, the project was handed over to the Korean company by the second suspect, who was the then minister. Without obtaining proper environmental assessment reports or cabinet approval, the suspect, former minister, has evaded appearing before the commission to provide a statement regarding the incident and is currently in hiding. Investigators from the commission examined 5 locations where he was suspected to be staying, but he was not found at any of them. Under these circumstances, the commission is unable to locate the suspect.
Unquote. Assistant Director Sulochana Hettiarachchi further informed the court that the suspect, former Minister Rajitha Senaratne, along with his son Chatura Senaratne, had made public statements to the media in a manner that could interfere with the ongoing investigation. After reviewing the submissions made by the Bribery Commission, the additional magistrate stated that it was evident the suspect had not cooperated with the investigation and was actively evading authorities. Quote,
The suspect had previously filed a bail application before the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court, requesting an order to prevent his arrest in connection with the incident. However, that application was rejected. Subsequently, he filed a revision bail application before the High Court seeking to overturn the previous order. It was revealed that no interim order had been issued in relation to that revision application. Therefore, the court concluded that there is no legal barrier to issuing a warrant against the suspect. Accordingly, under Section 7 of the Bail Act and Section 63(1)(a) of the Code of Criminal Procedure, the court has issued a warrant for the arrest of the suspect.
Unquote. The case is scheduled to be taken up again on the 26th September. A complaint was filed today with the Criminal Investigation Department against former Minister Uday Gamanpila, requesting an investigation under the Victim and Witness Protection Act and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights Act, also known as ICCPR. The complaint was submitted by Attorney-at-Law Achala Senaviratne along with several family members of missing persons. It is based on a recent media statement by Gamanpila regarding the court appearance of former Navy Commander Shanta, who was presented before the Polgahawala Magistrates Court in connection with the 2009 disappearance of a resident from the Kegol area. The complaint alleges that Gamanpila's remarks were aimed at inciting public hostility and discrediting victims, and that his statements could amount to interference with the judicial process. Former Sri Lankan ambassador to Russia Udayanga Weerathunga and his wife were summoned to the Criminal Investigation Department to provide a statement regarding the controversial MiG aircraft deal. According to police sources, the summons was issued to obtain a statement concerning a financial transaction involving a sum between $400,000 and $600,000 that was allegedly deposited into an account belonging to Weerathunga's wife's brother following the period during which the MiG deal took place. Venerable Ithakande Saddatisathere was summoned to the Criminal Investigation Department today over allegations that he had obtained Mahawali land in Sevanagala on lease and subsequently subleased it to another party for financial gain.
නෑ පරණ සිද්ධියක් ඒ වෙයි. සීනි මොකක්ද සම්බන්ධ වෙන්නේ? ඔව් සීනි කාලා වැඩි වෙලා.
Renuka Ekanayake, former Ministry Secretary and wife of former Presidential Secretary Samana Ekanayake, has resigned from her position as a member of the National Police Commission. According to the Commission, she submitted her resignation in writing to the Constitutional Council. Her resignation comes shortly after she was summoned by the Criminal Investigation Department to provide a statement regarding an investigation into a transaction involving the importation of dairy cattle from Australia, which took place between 2012 and 2017.
The Constitutional Council this afternoon approved the President's nominee for the post of Inspector General of Police. Accordingly, Attorney-at-Law Priyantha Veerasurya will be appointed as the 37th Inspector General of Police of Sri Lanka.
The post of IGP fell vacant following the retirement of C.D. Wickramaratne on the 23rd November 2023. President Ranil Wickremesinghe then appointed Deshabandhu Tennakone as acting IGP on the 29th November 2023. Then on the 26th February 2024, the President's Media Division announced that Deshabandhu Tennakone had been appointed as IGP in accordance with the powers vested in the President. However, on the 24th July 2024, the Supreme Court issued an interim injunction preventing Tennakone from functioning in the office of IGP. Since then, the Police Department has been headed by an acting IGP. On the 27th September 2024, Senior DIG Priyantha Veerasurya was appointed to the role of acting IGP. Following a parliamentary resolution on the 7th August 2024 calling for Tenakoon's removal, President Dissanayake nominated Attorney-at-Law Weerasuriya for the post. With the Constitutional Council's approval today, Attorney-at-Law Weerasuriya will be appointed as the 37th Inspector General of Police of Sri Lanka.
The representative head of state of Australia, Her Excellency the Honourable Miss Sam Mostyn, Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, the first Governor-General of Australia to visit Sri Lanka in an exclusive long-form interview with Siobhan Daniel.
How can the two nations come closer, in what areas, that we can both reach our goals and achieve our dreams?
We do have shared values, and particularly now with the push against corruption, with making sure that everything is done according to the rules-based system. Australia believes very much in the rules-based system of how our nations should work and the relationship with others around the world.
Wednesday the 13th of August at 8 p.m. on TV1.
Welcome back to the news. The opposition today submitted a no-confidence motion against Deputy Minister of Defence, retired Major General Aruna Jayasekara, to the Speaker of Parliament, Dr. Jagat Vikramaratne.
The motion, led by the SJB, cites Jayasekara's role as the Eastern Province Commander during the Easter Sunday attacks and argues that it is unethical for him to hold ministerial responsibilities related to the ongoing investigations. The motion states that he served as Eastern Province Commander during the Easter Sunday attacks and that it is inappropriate for him to hold ministerial responsibilities relating to ongoing investigations into the incident. A total of 32 MPs have signed this motion.
We urged him to step down and allow the investigation to proceed unhindered. However, he has publicly declared his refusal to step down. If he does not step down, it is our duty as the opposition to take a stand to ensure these investigations are not obstructed.
The cabinet spokesperson responded to the no-confidence motion today.
විපක්ෂයට ඕන විදිහට අපි හැසිරෙන්නෙත් නැහැ. විපක්ෂයේ මේ එක එක වෙලාවට මේ ඇත්ත පරීක්ෂණ යට යවන්න ගේන ගුණ්ඩුවට අපි අහුවෙන්නේ.
We will not yield to the opposition's repeated attempts to disrupt ongoing investigations. When the Easter attack investigations were not progressing properly, Sajid Premadasa and his faction did not mention this name. Now that the investigations are moving forward systematically, targeting those who supported the masterminds and those who benefited politically, Sajid Premadasa, Mujibur Rahman and their group are trying to connect this matter to other incidents. There is a group that failed to ensure security despite clear warnings, and an even larger group directly responsible for the attacks. The CID is following proper procedures. Current MPs allied with Sajid Premadasa were part of the Parliamentary Investigation Committee on the Easter attacks. If they did not raise concerns about these people then or later with the Presidential Investigation Committee, why raise them now? Why are they trying to implicate someone else now? The opposition's motive is clearly to protect the real masterminds and suspects behind this crime. We once believed only the Rajapaksa family was involved, but it now seems the opposition is trying to shield them as well. This is possible when you look at how they allied themselves with the local government elections. We are not afraid of these. Let them bring the no-confidence motion. Ultimately, information previously hidden will come to light through the investigations.
රාජපක්ෂට පමණයි කියලා. නමුත් දැන් ඒක විපක්ෂ කට්ටියට තෝමනාවක් තිබෙනවා පේනවා සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාසගේ කට්ටියටත්. ඒක එහෙම වෙන්න පුළුවන්. පහුගිය ප්‍රාදේශ සභා ඡන්දෙදී පළාත් පාලන ආයතන පිහිටවන්න ඒගොල්ලෝ එකට හිටපු ආකාරය අනුව බැලුවට පස්සේ එහෙම දැන් එකට කරටක් දාගෙන යන තත්වයක් තියෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. අපි මේවට කිසිසේත්ම බය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි කියන්නේ ගේන්න මේක හොඳ අවස්ථාවක්. මේ විශ්වාසභංගය ගේන්න. ගෙනාවට පස්සේ කලින් දවසේ එළිදරව් නොවිච්ච තොරතුරුත් පරීක්ෂණයේදී තව එළිදරව් වේවි.
Shanta Muton Kotwa, a former member of the Homagoma Pradeshia Sabha, was shot dead this afternoon along Artigala Road in Meegoda.
Former Homagama Pradeshia Sabha member Shanta Muton Kotwa was shot at around 1 p.m. today while riding his motorcycle. Two people travelling in a car carried out the shooting and fled the scene.
ඩෝංගාලක් දැක්කම අපි දන්නේ නැහැ මොකද්ද කියලා. ඇවිල්ලා වනකොට කෙනෙක් දුවනවා. දුවපු කෙනා කෝගෙල බණ පිටිපතට ගියාම එහා පැත්තේ ගියේ කෑ ගහනවා. ඒව තුවාල වෙලා. ඒ මන්ට එනගෙන කිව්වා අනේ මාව ඉස්පිරිතාලේ ගෙනියන්න කියලා. ඒ යනකොට පණ තිබ්බද? ඔව් මාතේ කතා කළා. අනේ මාව ඉස්පිරිතාලේ ගෙනියන්න කිව්වා.
Shanta Muton Kotwa, who sustained serious injuries, died after being admitted to the Homagama Base Hospital. He was a 46-year-old resident of Vataraka Padukka. Police pursued the car that fled after the shooting, and within a few hours the police were able to arrest the driver along with the vehicle in Thalangama Battaramulla.
Governor of the central bank, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, says that if the US had imposed a 44% tariff on Sri Lanka, the country might have needed a revised IMF program. He made these remarks while speaking at the Invest Sri Lanka Investor Forum held in Singapore this morning.
Yeah, I think when this US tariff obviously is an external shock. We all understand that it's not common to Sri Lanka. Whenever we have this external shock like the pandemic is similar one, unexpected external shock. How prepared the country is to face that shock is important one. Right now, as I said earlier, external shocks can come anytime, unexpected. Important one is to prepare and create buffers for us to meet, support the economy if needed. So right now, first part on the internal policy side, we have monetary policy buffers, the fiscal buffers and the reserve buffers for us to use if there's any short-term impact on this system. But at the beginning, when 44% was imposed, obviously we were very much concerned. But later we were able to negotiate to a level 20%. I was also part of the team. And this level, I think we are much more comfortable. I don't think when the discussion with the IMF also at that time they considered if 44% was imposed, we needed to have a different outlook and also different IMF program. They're willing to support if that is needed. But right now, it's like the status quo. What we earlier predicted, we are comparative basis, we are at the same level, right, and even sometimes better than some of our competitors if you compare. That's why I think there could be obviously trade diversion. My assessment is that trade diversion could be beneficial for Sri Lanka in the current context. If this tariff regime differentiation persists for a longer period, we are here to benefit.
The launch press conference of Sri Lanka's first ever National AI Expo and Conference 2025 was held in Colombo.
Sri Lanka marked a historic milestone with the official launch of the National AI Expo and Conference 2025 at a high-profile press conference in Colombo. Organized by the Ministry of Digital Economy, the event is said to be the country's first-ever national-level AI showcase.
Our goal is clear: AI for every Sri Lankan, from the farmer in Monragala to the entrepreneur in Colombo. The government is already moving. We have published the National AI Strategy, which is currently open for public consultation, to ensure AI adoption is ethical, sustainable, and inclusive. We are improving digital infrastructure, expanding connectivity, and supporting AI projects in agriculture, healthcare, education, and transport. But our greatest investment must be in people. We must teach AI from the school level, integrated into the university programs, and create upskilling opportunities for our current workforce. AI should be a tool that empowers our creative minds, strengthens our industries, and opens global opportunities to our youth. We will also focus on digital inclusion. AI must help small businesses to grow, give rural communities better access to services, and ensure no one is left behind in this transformation. The time is to act now. We need government, industry, academia, and citizens working together today to make Sri Lanka AI ready. As we head towards September 2025, which we called the Digital Month, this expo will signal to the world that Sri Lanka is ready to embrace AI, not just as a user, but as an emerging leader. The AI revolution is happening with or without us.
The highlight of the event was the unveiling of the official website, which will serve as the central hub for registration, program updates, and partner information.
Sri Lanka has a unique opportunity to leapfrog traditional development stages by adopting AI. Sri Lanka's digital economy is on track to grow $15 billion by 2030. With AI, Envision is hoped to contribute up to 10 to 12% of the digital economy. Importantly, these figures are more than projections, as they represent livelihoods uplifted, services transformed, and new markets unlocked. The Expo will showcase that we are not only ready for AI, but how, as a nation, we have progress in terms of technology, people, and businesses harnessing AI's capabilities.
The National AI Expo and Conference 2025 is set to take place on the 29th and 30th of September 2025.
The joint 20th Congress of the International Society of Twin Studies and the 8th World Congress on Twin Pregnancy was held in Colombo.
Joint 20th Congress of the International Society of Twin Studies and the 8th World Congress on Twin Pregnancy is taking place from the 10th to the 12th of August 2025 in Colombo. This prestigious event is being hosted by the Institute for Research and Development in Health and Social Care, or the IRD, and the Sri Lankan Twin Registry. Chief guest for the event, Minister of Science and Technology Professor Shanta emphasized on the science of twin research for the betterment of humanity.
Today, we bring together representatives from over 32 countries, from America to Australia, Nigeria to Norway, and Japan to Brazil, united by one shared purpose: advancing the science of twin research for the betterment of humanity. Over the past decades, particularly the twins research has transformed our understanding of how genes and environment interact to shape health outcomes. Population-based twin registries, such as ours in Sri Lanka, have become invaluable platforms of longitudinal studies and data-driven insights. Sri Lankan Twin Registry, now one of the most comprehensive twin databases in South Asia, had enabled researchers to explore a wide range of health and social care issues, many of them particularly relevant to low and middle income countries.
Guest of honor, the High Commissioner for Great Britain and Northern Ireland in Sri Lanka, Andrew Patrick, highlighted on Sri Lanka being the coordination centre for regional programs.
I've been fascinated by some of the things you were saying about the imbalance between research published from the Global South and the Global North. And it's wonderful that here in Sri Lanka you have, through this institution, been able to redress that imbalance to some extent. So it was, of course, an achievement by Sri Lankans to set up this registry. I was very grateful for the recognition of the small part that the UK funding was able to play in that. In fact, as I've spent the last 2 years going around various universities in this country, I've discovered that this is a much more significant part of our relationship than I'd realized when I arrived. Almost every university in this country has strong research links with British universities and other international universities, sometimes also being the coordination center for regional programs, because as we know, this region, some tensions exist in this region, and Sri Lanka provides a neutral venue for researchers to come and talk about their research. So that's another achievement for Sri Lanka.
Professor Atula Sumatipala was appointed as the President of the International Society for Twin Studies for the upcoming year. In parallel with the International Congress on Twin Research, a cultural talent festival titled Twin Talent Fest was held on the 14th of June at Apegama premises in Battaramulla, showcasing the artistic talents and cultural abilities of twins. The winning twins had the opportunity to perform and exhibit their talents before an international audience at the International Twin Congress.
A ship from the China Coast Guard CCG 3104 collided with a Type 052D destroyer of the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy. They were reportedly attempting to catch a patrol boat from the Philippine Coast Guard in the South China Sea.
The incident reportedly caused substantial damage to the CCG vessel, rendering it unseaworthy, as shown in footage released on Monday. Images also showed the PCG operator offering assistance via radio, including medical aid and manned overboard recovery. China's Coast Guard stated that the collision occurred while taking necessary measures to expel Philippine vessels from the waters of Scarborough Shoal in the South China Sea. According to media reports, the interception of Philippine vessels was attempted after warnings were ignored. China described the operation as professional, standardized, legitimate and legal. Scarborough Shoal is a disputed territory in the South China Sea, claimed by both China and the Philippines. This triangular-shaped atoll, approximately 220 kilometers west of the Philippines, Luzon's island, is a flashpoint in the broader disputes over the South China Sea. China asserts claims over nearly all of the sea, including Scarborough Shoal, while the Philippines contests these claims based on its exclusive economic zone. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has vowed that patrols will continue to be present to defend sovereign rights, while the PCG has emphasized its dedication to safeguarding maritime operations.
President Donald Trump has signed an executive order that will prevent high U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods from snapping back into effect for another 90 days. The order was signed just hours before the pause on Trump's tariffs was set to expire.
US President Donald Trump on Monday delayed high US tariffs on Chinese goods from snapping back into place for another 90 days. Those tariffs were set to resume Tuesday. But Trump signed an executive order hours beforehand that extends the deadline until mid-November. The delay was the expected outcome from the latest round of talks between US trade negotiators and their Chinese counterparts, which took place in Stockholm in late July. If the deadline were not extended, the US duties on China would have shot back up to where they stood in April, when the tariff war between the world's largest trading nations was at its peak. At that time, Trump had cranked up blanket tariffs on Chinese imports to 145%, and China had retaliated with 125% duties on US goods. But the two sides agreed to pause most of those tariffs in May after negotiators met for the first time in Geneva. The US pared its tariffs back to 30% and China dropped its levies to 10%. Monday's extension is the latest example of how Trump's on-again, off-again tariffs have shifted with little prior notice, a dynamic that has made US trade policy unpredictable for many businesses.
President Donald Trump announced he is placing the Washington, D.C. Police Department under direct federal control and deploying National Guard troops to the nation's capital, saying the move is aimed at restoring order in the city. The president has repeatedly complained about rising crime in D.C., but overall crime numbers are lower this year than in 2024.
United States President Donald Trump on Monday invoked a crime emergency in the U.S. Capitol, allowing his Department of Justice to take control of Washington, D.C.'s local law enforcement. He simultaneously announced the Pentagon would deploy U.S. National Guard forces to the city of more than 700,000. Gathered just blocks away with the White House looming in the background, protesters erupted in a chorus of boos. The Pentagon later said 800 soldiers were activated on Monday, with 100 to 200 of them supporting law enforcement. The rights of the hundreds of thousands of residents of Washington, D.C. have been the subject of debate since it was established by Congress in 1790 with land from Maryland and Virginia. The district continues to fall under direct auspices of the federal government, having never been granted statehood. However, it maintains a level of local autonomy per the Home Rule Act of 1973, which allows residents to elect some local officials. Congress still reviews all legislation passed by those elected officials and approves the district's budget. While DC crime rates are typically higher than the national average, violent crime rates have dropped significantly in the recent years, plummeting 35% from 2023 to 2024 and another 26% this year compared to the same period last year, according to the Metropolitan Police data. Early this year, the Justice Department announced that violent crime in DC had hit a 30-year low.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.